Hello, and welcome to We Talk. I'm Virginie Levalère, the founder of Oui Immigration. At Oui Immigration, we support companies and individuals with all immigration processes in France and worldwide, with one clear goal: expertise, compliance, and peace of mind. Wondering how current international events affect your talent's mobility? You're in the right place. Through We Talk, we bring experts together, answer your questions, and give you the tools to anticipate and manage your global mobility challenges. 𝐎𝐮𝐢 clock just ran. Let's dive into this new episode of We Talk. Bonjour, and welcome to this new episode of We Talk, the global mobility encounter by Oui Immigration. We're very happy to have you today. And today we're going to dive into the world of foreign entrepreneurs in France. To do so, I've invited Jean-Baptiste PUYRAUD from EuroStart. He's going to introduce himself, but basically he's a specialist in helping entrepreneurs in France set up their business. And we've been working with him for a while now. We're very happy about this collaboration. So Jean-Baptiste, can you briefly introduce yourself and your company?
Hi. Thank you for the introduction. Well, my company is called Euro Start Entreprises and was set up in 2007. We're based in Paris, and we are a consulting company, but we are specialized in company formation. So we do businesses and entrepreneurs from all over the world to set up especially in France. That's a big part of our business. And we provide a wide range of services directly or through our network. So obviously company formation, bank account introductions, accountancy, tax advice, insurance, payroll, virtual offices, registered address, but also translation, legalization. I mean, you name it, we try to work as a point of entry for all our clients when they set up in France.
Anything you need, yes, to create a company in France, Jean-Baptiste has it. So
nearly everything.
Nearly everything. The rest is ours. So one trend we've been seeing lately, since basically Trump's election in the US, is that we have a significant rise in American citizens wanting to live in France and launch a business in France. And they're not the only ones. To give you some numbers, more than 1 million companies were created in France in 2024. That's a 6% increase from 2023, and it's much more than Germany or the UK. And the fastest growing sectors seem to be the green energy production and digital services, obviously. But together with Jean-Baptiste, we've been asked to work on very different areas. So Jean-Baptiste, you work closely with entrepreneurs setting up in France, as you were saying. What kind of industries do you see most often? And can you give us a few examples of profiles of foreign entrepreneurs that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. It varies a lot. Like we have a very wide range of clients, but at the moment we do have a lot of IT, engineering, and medical companies. So companies that are providing services or are manufacturing devices for the healthcare sector. So that's a big part of our clients at the moment. We also have quite an important part of our clients who are focused on perfumes, clothes, let's say all the fashion industry, because when you set up in France, you set up in Paris. It's if you're in fashion, you need to have an office in Paris or at least a branch, and the best is to have a company there. Now, in terms to come back to your question, in terms of profiles, it's quite wide too. It goes from the sole entrepreneur, so the individual setting up his or her company, to the medium-sized company. Most of our clients are SMEs, and they want to expand into France because they have a market or because they have a contract. So there's a need for them for these companies to register. And have an entity in France. And to come back to your introduction, it's true that in the past few months we had much more inquiries from the US, and particularly from US entrepreneurs who want to relocate their business and come and live in France. So this is quite new, because we used to have the US companies that, were contacting us because they had a market and they needed a company. Now we have more like the small businesses or individuals who really want to live and become expatriate and come and live in France. So that's quite a new situation, which is, I think, due to the global political situation and particularly the political situation in the States at the moment.
Right. Makes sense. And yes, just like you have many entrepreneurs, we do as well. And we have many people who want to retire here as well, that wanted to do it in a few years. But given the situation in the US, they've just scheduled differently their project. But it's quite obvious. And obviously, I suppose just like you do, obviously we have many different nationalities, but there's indeed a big rise with the US citizens, surprisingly. And so what are the key, you often hear about France that obviously it's a great country. We're both French. You live partly in the UK, but we know it's a great country, but we also know that it's famous for its tax system that is not always very nice with entrepreneurs or companies in general. But what are the key advantages France can offer to a foreign entrepreneur that would like to set up a company here?
Well, I think, first of all, like in the last 10 years, the administrative environment for businesses let's say, is much more friendly for investors and entrepreneurs. It's still France, so there's still some the accountancy is complicated, and the administrative process can be a bit burdensome sometimes, but it's much more easier to set up a company and to manage your business than it used to be like 20 years ago. So that's the first point. Now, I think, to come back to your question, one of the first point for me, and generally speaking, for what I get from my clients, they choose France because, first of all, of its infrastructure. So we tend to forget about that, but France is located like at the heart of Europe. So it's when you set up in France, you have access to very quickly to a lot of countries and lots of big markets like Spain, Benelux, Germany, Italy, you name it. And when I talk about infrastructure, we have like a great network of train, roads, highways, but also all over, all around the border and also in central France, lots of areas with warehouses and industrial plants. So everything is set up in France so that your company, when you come to this country, you can have access to a good infrastructure. And this is a key point for an investor. That means they don't have to worry about how to transport their goods, or to export their goods, or to move, but also for their employee to come to their factory or to their premises. That's a very important point. Second point, and I was talking about the employees, I think we have a lot of highly qualified employees in France. And that is very important. That means I come back to the US companies, lots of US clients, they are coming and they are recruiting in France because they know we have very famous and engineering schools. We are very good at mathematics. We are very good in all the new IT, in all the new IT sectors like AI. So it's really like we have this highly qualified pool of employees, which is very, very interesting for the investors and the businesses. Now, in terms of advantages, and if we think about the financial advantages or the grants that you can have as a business, it's really vast. But I would like to just pinpoint a few in France. Like, for instance, we have BPI France, which is the banque d'investissement, is the investment bank, and it's doing a lot of private equity, especially for startups and especially in the new technology sector. You also have local grants and support program depending where you are setting up your company and where you are employing people. So you can have like tax incentives depending on the areas you are setting up your company in France. And finally, we have like a really good environment for startups. One of the good example is 𝐎𝐮𝐢 𝐓, which is a huge tech startup hub, and who attracted and still attracting a lot of businesses. So all of these, infrastructures, employees, and a good environment for investment, that creates a good country and a good destination for businesses. And that can explain why we had so many companies set up in France in the last few years.
Oh, and yeah, congratulations for selling our country that well. and it's very correct, everything you're saying, obviously. And now that we've got the environment that is positive, can we get to the core of what you're doing when you help creating a company? What are the main steps an entrepreneur has to go through?
Yeah, so I'm going to try to give you the main steps of the process. The process can change depending on the type of companies, the type of investors, the complexity of the project. But there are some some steps that everyone has to go through. And it is important for a foreign investor or a foreign business to know these several steps, because it's quite different in all, anywhere else in the world. So I think the first thing is, when you want to set up a company, so you contact a lawyer, an accountant, or a company formation agent like me, they will draft the company documents. So the project of the company documents. So that means the articles, what we call the statute. They will also draft a resolution to appoint the different directors, to appoint the auditors if there is a need for an auditor. There's a few documents that we need to gather. And then that's the first step. But the second step, but for me, it's the most important one in the process, is that you have to pay the share capital before incorporating the company. And that's something lots of our clients don't understand, is that how can you pay the share capital if the company is not incorporated yet? Well, that's France. I was talking about the administrative nightmare sometimes. Well, it is one of these examples. The system in France is that you need to, when you have the draft of the documents, you need to open an escrow account to pay the share capital. Share capital has to be paid in France. In some countries, like in the UK, Ireland, you don't have to pay it. In France, you have to pay it. So if you choose to put 5,000 euros, you need to pay the 5,000 euros. And it needs to be paid in an escrow account, which is in the name of the future company. It's blocked. It's safeguarded. No one can touch it except the company when the company is incorporated. And this is very important to have it, because without the piece of paper saying that you have paid the share capital, you cannot incorporate the company. So it can be done through a bank, it can be done through a notary, it can be done through a lawyer. There's lots of different solutions, again, depending on the complexity of the process or of the project. I'm not going to go into that, but that's a really, really important part of the company formation process. When that's done, everything is easier from that point. So we gather all the documents and the certificate showing that we have the share capital paid up, and we go through the court process. So it used to be the commercial court, now it's all centralized. It's INPI, if I, in English. And we go through the registration of the company. And within a few days, few working days, takes between 3 and 5 working days, depending on where you are setting up the company in France, you have your certificate of incorporation. So that means the company is fully registered. Then, at that point, you can open your bank account. So if you have opened an escrow account for your share capital in a bank, that would be automatic. You send your certificate of incorporation, what we call the cabis in France, and the bank will open the account. If you have deposited your share capital with a lawyer or a notary, then you will have to go through the process of opening a bank account. That can be difficult, again, depending on the complexity, the structure of the company, the nationality of the shareholder, the nationality of the director. There's always solutions, but any client coming to set up in France needs to bear in mind that French banks are working on their own timeline. So that means it's not like in some countries where you can open very quickly. It takes time because there's compliance processes. They want to meet the client. They want to understand what the business is, what they can do for the business. So it's quite complex. But it's doable. Just takes a bit of time. Meanwhile, when this is being done, obviously the tax registration is ongoing. It's done nearly automatically. So VAT registration, your corporate tax registration. If you are importing and exporting goods, you can request a EORI number, which is a specific number you can request from the customs. So all in all, that's the main steps. The incorporation process is very quick. What is a bit longer and a bit more difficult is the escrow account for the share capital and the bank account opening. So that's the two main points that really are important for the businesses to understand before setting up in France.
So all in all, again, depending on the company structure and so on, how long does it take, more or less, like 2 months?
No, it can take less than that. Recently, we've done a company. It's been set up in 3 weeks. On average, with our clients, bearing in mind that our clients are non-resident, sometimes there's companies as corporate shareholders, so it add a layer of complexity in the compliance. It's between 4 and 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yes, and I confirm. Even for a French citizen, it can be complicated to open your own business. So I confirm that being helped by an expert like Jean-Baptiste can be extremely helpful. And the timeline he just gave us is when you're being assisted with someone like Jean-Baptiste. Otherwise, it can take much longer. So these are part of the. You gave us a bit of an overview of the administrative challenges. Would you be able to share what are the biggest challenges foreign entrepreneurs face when launching in France, and what common mistakes they could or should avoid?
That's a good question. I think that the main mistake, from my point of view, and through the several years I've been doing that business, is clients tend to think that what applies in their country is the same in France.
Yeah.
Which means they come with their background and their corporate culture, and they expect that it's the same in France. And my advice would be really that they need to forget what they know and adopt the French way of thinking, which could be a bit difficult sometimes. I understand. But when you start a company in France, you really need to think, well, okay, new country, new rules. Let's forget what I know. And let's see, I need to learn new things. So for instance, like it's particularly the case with accountancy. Our accountancy system is specific to France. So we have our own accounting codes, and the way we do accountancy is really, really specific. There's a law, loi de finance every year, so a financial law, which changes the way we are doing the accounts, the way we account for things, for expenses, for, like assets. So it's very important. And I think that's the main point, is to have local advisors and consultants and trust them. They are the experts. Like okay, you can have your CFO, you can have an accountant, in your country. But when you come to France, trust the expert inside, trust the expert in France, because it's so complex. And I've seen it so many times that, you can make huge mistakes, and then that is very costly. On the other hand, I think, having said that, one of the, and it's not, it seems a bit like a contradiction, but I always insist with all my clients that they need to retain a maximum of control on their company and on the management. Because when you are from Hong Kong or from the States and you set up in France, where there's time difference and you think, oh, I'm going to put someone there and they're going to manage the company and it's okay, I've got an accountant. But then it's not working like that. You need, as a director, as an investor, you need to also retain control, retain the management, know what's going on. And that's why you need also there to go back to the experts and the consultants and the right advisors, because you need to understand what's going on and don't trust anyone else with your own company. That's super important. I've seen it so many times, like clients saying, oh yeah, I've got someone who can be director in France. He's a friend of a friend. And then it goes all wrong. And that's a huge mistake. So really that's, forget what you know, try to adopt the French culture, retain control. And the best way to retain control is to have the right consultants in place.
That's super interesting. And it's true that when you create a company here, when I did mine, I heard 1,000 times your accountant is going to be your best friend. And it's very true. You need to find someone you can trust and who knows about his job. Yeah,
absolutely. But there's so many challenges, when you set up like a company. And it's and you know that because we've been discussing that for a long time. One of the biggest point, difficulty for client is immigration. Especially, we've seen that coming since Brexit with British clients. They were not used to that, and suddenly, oh, yes, you need to have a work permit, you need to have a visa, and that's why it's really good to work together, and we're super happy to work together. And but it's really like immigration. It's now completely part of the process. Like we have to talk about it straight away. Because to go back to banks, most of the banks, they want to have like a director with a visa or a residency permit. Otherwise, they won't open the bank account. So it's a huge point. It's absolutely important to deal with immigration when we speak of challenges. Yeah. So actually, can you give us like an overview of the main work permits? Because I was talking about that, like for entrepreneurs when they are starting in France.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you're right. Immigration can be a pain point, and it's really important to anticipate it, just like you said, and also to master the very first notion in immigration, which is compliance with the local immigration law. because we face sometimes clients who come and say, oh, I've got this talent passport, I can open a company. No, you can't. Depending on the talent passport you have, depending on the residence permit you have, if you're already living in France, you won't be able to open your company. You will have to do change of status. That will take time, and it's maybe not even going to be possible. So that's the first thing one has to keep in mind. It's the immigration compliance. And then choosing the right permit is obviously key because it's going to be based on your profile, on your company project, and again, on your current immigration situations. So that's the first thing. And basically, to sum it up very briefly, there are three main options if you want to start a company in France. There's the talent passport company creation. We've been doing quite a lot of them together with Jean-Baptiste. That one is best suited for well-structured projects with a very solid business plan. And this business plan will be validated or not by the Ministry of Economy. And you need to invest a minimum of 30,000 euros. So obviously, that's why I was saying it really aims to well-structured projects. Among other documents, you're going to have to show you preferably have a master and at least 5 years of professional experience related to your project and what you're going to be doing. Basically, if you studied engineering and you want to open a bakery, it's going to be a bit more complicated to explain the whole project. And just like any other talent passport, it's going to be released for up to 4 years, and it allows you to bring your family so they can live, study, and work in France. So obviously, it's a great work permit. Then you have the entrepreneur residence permit. It's more or less the same, except that you don't have to expect to invest, the 30,000 euros. It's more of a flexible option for freelancers, self-employed professionals, small business founders who want to register a company in France as commercial, artisanal, industrial, or liberal activity. So same thing, you will have to prove your experience, you will have to prove the financial strength of your project, and also you will have to show your own financial health. That's something we'll talk a bit later about. That permit is only valid for 1 year. You'll need to renew it each year. As long as you meet the conditions, it's fine. And it does not include the family. So obviously that's the big difference with the talent passport, plus the investments. Then you have the job search / business creation residence permit. That's more of a great option for people who studied in France and just graduated of a master who wants to stay in France to launch their business. It's only released for 1 year, except for some nationalities. And let's say it's an in-between option between your student visa and one of the 2 work permits I was telling you about previously. So it's a good solution, but it's a temporary one. So obviously that's a very quick summary to decide really what's the best route in terms of immigration. We need to do an assessment of your situation, to give you the best advice.
Okay. Well, you were talking about business plan and financial wealth. So are these the key elements that the immigration authorities are looking at, or are there other key points?
Yes, there are. The business plan is the very important one. We'll see that in 2 minutes. But basically, just like in any immigration file, when you work on an immigration file, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the immigration agent who's going to go through your file and receive it, and will have very little time to go through it. So he needs to understand very quickly what's the project, what you want, what are the documents. Otherwise, it's just going to move to another file. So it's our job to make sure that the file he receives is super complete and self-explanatory. If we focus on the entrepreneur files, whatever the type of process you choose to go with, the really important matters are, as you were saying, the business plan. That's super important, and that's something we help with. But it needs to be very clear, detailed, adapted to the French market, As you know, and as Jean-Baptiste was saying, each market, each country is different. So you won't work on your business plan in the US just like you would do for a French one. So authorities are looking for a coherent strategy. It needs to include a market analysis, the customer you could reach, the legal structure, and that's why it's important to decide what's your legal structure quite early in the process. Ideally, you need to show at least 3 years of financial projection. And obviously, it's even better if you can show that you will be recruiting people in France. So business plan is number one. Then they will check what's your personal financial situation. Because as we all know, a company is not necessarily going to do 1 million the first day. So you need to show that you've got enough money to maintain yourself until the company is working. So basically, that's going to be equivalent to the French minimum wage, 1,800 euros, basically, that you need to show through bank statements, funding sources, any document you can show that you've got enough money to live until your company is financially supporting you. And then obviously the consistency of the whole project is super important. I was giving the example of the engineer and the bakery just before, and that's the whole thing. It needs to make sense. Ideally, your background needs to be aligned with the activity you're going to have or you're going to be creating. And the project should be credible in its scale and ambition. And that's why whatever the type of permit you want to go for, the first step is going to be to receive the agreement from the ministry. They're going to go through everything and they're going to say, okay, that's going to work, that's not going to work. And from then we can move on with the immigration application. And what's important as well is that all in all, between the company creation, the immigration parts, the whole process of creating a company in France when you're a foreign citizen can take some time. It's around 3 to 4 months in average. So it's really important to anticipate the whole project.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can have, like, it's important to take that into account because it can have consequences on the the investment plans, and especially if you have equity or if you have investors behind you. Because I'm just coming back to one of the points I was talking about, which is like talking about the France as the startup nation. But it's true that when you arrive with the startup project, you want everything to go fast, and you have investors, business angel, equity partners. They put some money. They want, now they want the return on their investment. So that's also a difficult, when you're not an established company, that could be a difficult one. Makes me wonder, is there any specific options for startups or new projects?
Yes, so just like you were saying before, we're supposed to be the startup nation, and we have many companies or projects that help entrepreneurs in France. There's the famous French tech visa, and it's not the real name of the work permit. The real name is the Talent Passport Innovative Project. So that's something we do as well. And it's true that it's very convenient, but you still need to have a backup by a certified French incubator. So that can be a bit tricky to find, but it's true that it's extremely helpful. And just like you were saying before, Jean-Baptiste, we have BPI France, the French tech, that can give you access to public funding, mentoring, networks to help you scale your project, and even places to work, just like you were saying before. So yes, that's for that. France is really helpful for entrepreneurs. It's true, and so as for information, all these informations we just gave you are summarized in a guide that we will send you if you reach out to us. So you will have all the information about it. And Jean-Baptiste, we're almost reaching the end of our talk together, if you had one piece of advice you gave us, I mean, you gave to foreign entrepreneurs already some super interesting and helpful advice, but would you have one more that you would give to a foreign entrepreneur who wants to create his company in France?
Well, I think I'm going to say what I've said already, but for me, it's absolutely key. For me, there are two things very important. One thing you said clearly is plan ahead. That means you need incorporation, banking, visa. It takes time. If you're in a rush, everything will be difficult, everything will be stressful, and most of the time it's not going to work. So you need to plan ahead. And when you have a project, you need to think, okay, it's going to take 3, 4, 5 months. And you start and you know that within 5 months you will have everything you need. But that needs planning. And secondly, and for me, that's the most important thing, is to get the right consultants, the right experts, whether it's for your accounts, tax, your visa, your employment contract, a commercial contract, everything. Go with a specialized expert, someone who is regulated for tax, someone who has got experience, who has a track record, who knows exactly what they're talking about. This is super important. There is a cost attached to it, but in the long run, you will save a lot of money. So for me, it's really, really important, especially think about it. You're arriving in a new country. You don't know everything. This is not the same culture. This is not the same language. This is not the same system. You need to trust these people and focus on your business, because what you want is to set up a business that is profitable. But if you are focusing on the wrong things and try to do the accounts, sort out your visa, incorporate your company, do an employment contract, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I've seen it many times. Focus on your business and we'll do the rest.
Exactly. That's a great conclusion. Thank you, Jean-Baptiste. So we're now reaching the end of this We Talk dedicated to foreign entrepreneurs in France. A huge merci to you, Jean-Baptiste, for sharing your insights and expertise. If you have any questions or need guidance on immigration company creation matters, of course, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. And if you found this discussion interesting, don't forget to share it and to follow us for future episodes. Thank you again, Jean-Baptiste. Thank you all for watching this video, and see you soon for another episode of We Talk.
Thank you very much for listening to this new episode of We Talk. I hope this answered your questions. Of course, feel free to reach out to us if you have any more. At Oui Immigration, we're happy to guide you through every step of your global immigration strategy. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it with your network, and we'd love to hear your comments. Follow us on LinkedIn as well for the next episodes, and let us know if you're interested in a very specific topic or country. Also, obviously, if you're indeed needing our expertise, send us an email, we@we-immigration.com. See you next time for a new episode of We Talk.